Chapter 28. Pilgrim's phone beeped at her and she picked it up. "It's Frank," she mouthed over to Baxter, who'd looked up from reading the paper. "Frank, what can I do for you?" she asked. "I'll come straight to the point. Someone using military security codes has accessed your personal civilian files. The reason I'm contacting you is I've discovered an embedded routing cipher attached to entry level, which when activated allows only particular files to be accessed." Pilgrim didn't understand what he was trying to tell her, but his use of the word civilian caused her to grip the phone tighter. "I'm sorry, Frank. You're going to need to give me the pop-up book version." "No problem. I placed a security cone around your personal information, purely a formality. It's a blind tracer. In other words, it's undetectable and untraceable. It only triggers when there's unauthorized access and then tracks back to the source. The initiator would be unaware of this security feature. Now, here comes the interesting part. A third party with programming and security that exceeds mine has accessed your personal files and implanted a very sophisticated program which only allows access to certain areas in your files. Think of it as a cyber labyrinth, which only allows you to follow a specifically determined path." "But who do you know who would do that, and why?" Pilgrim asked. "I've identified the first party from military codes. She's a female named Maria Gonzalez, retired intelligence CIA. She lives a very pampered life in Venezuela, travels extensively and shares an old mutual acquaintance of yours." "Stop. Let me guess. Hansford," she said. "Affirmative." "Was there anything included that I'm going to need to explain?" she asked hesitantly. "Your date of birth?" he tossed out there. "A lady has to have some secrets," she teased with a note of trepidation in her voice. "What's his motive?" Frank asked. "Curiosity. What else was he able to learn?" "Nothing you wouldn't have told him if he'd asked," he answered dryly. "Who do you think planted the program in my file?" she asked. "Beats me for the moment." She now had to ask a question, knowing the risk it posed. "Frank, have you seen my file in full?" she asked quietly, shooting a glance over and seeing a look of puzzlement on Baxter's face. "No, it's none of my business. If you pay me to get it, I will. Otherwise, it's not at the top of my list of pertinent information to secure, with the greatest respect." "Let's keep it that way," she dismissed. A perceptible pause from Frank caused her to ask, "Something else?" "Seeing you mention it, this program has locked down most of your files, which even I cannot access." "What type of files?" she asked. "The files are pre-computer. I don't mean they're binary files, I mean they predate computers, which in itself is inconceivable. These are virtual files with considerable content, highly sophisticated technology that I was unaware was even conceptualized at the time." "How far back do they go?" she asked in a heightened state of nervousness. "Further than is conceivably viable?" "As far back as that," she laughed, trying to make light of it, not liking the route the conversation was taking. "The only thing I've been able to come up with is a theory based on when the file was created," he said. "Let's hear it." Her heart sank. 60-odd years ago, the only computers remotely capable of sharing files like yours were located at the Home Office in London. Incidentally, it's a dead end. But I did pick up a similar algorithm used by a research laboratory in Stade, Switzerland, on what is now the Swiss-German border. "Go on," she prompted. "The laboratory supposedly now no longer exists. Records, of which there are precious few, show it worked on cognitive neuroscience genetic engineering." "Anything else?" she asked. She held her eyes closed, gripping her forehead between her fingers. "Nothing I recognize in relation to you. The laboratory was privately funded and holds hundreds of global patents, mostly related to genetic engineering. Now here comes the worrying part. I work with my own very advanced security systems, not even dreamt of by programmers out there, but since looking into this facility, I've had 2 emergency system breach shutdowns. That sort of thing just doesn't happen to me, not to my systems. I've double-checked, everything appears as it should be. I guess I'm sharing all of this with you in case anything happens. In that case, you better leave it alone. Ending the call, she stood fixed, before noticing that Baxter had put down his paper and was staring at her. "Problem?" he asked, taking in her pale face. "Nothing I can't handle," she replied.